Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you all had a great day yesterday. I know the opening plenary provided us with a basic understanding of the region, some of the politics, and some of the plans, and the transformation that's underway here. I wanted to thank those folks who participated in the Raise the Bar, Raise the Roof session yesterday. They gave us a lot of really good feedback about how we can continuously improve our program and the conference and strengthen the organization. So I just wanted to thank folks for that. We have 2 more action-packed days, and today is the day that we're going to be doing the idea exchange sessions. We've chosen 3 sessions that will all be today. The first session is called Connecting Transit, Getting Transit into the Heart of Employment Centers, and that will be from 12 to 1:30 today. Just so you know, the selection process involved a number of our new revolutionaries, which are our emerging leaders and professionals in transportation. They went through the ideas and selected these 3 to facilitate today. The second session is Engaging People, Exploring Innovative Methods to further engage immigrants and communities of color in the planning process. And that one's going to be from 2 to 3:30 today. And session 3 is job creation in the transit corridors, looking at living wage jobs and ways to connect people to employment in these corridors. And that one is going to be from 4 to 5:30 today. So we're excited to have those ideas. We're hoping that many of you will take advantage of these intimate sessions, really a chance for dialogue, small group dialogue, and real-time discussion. You may have noticed that we have some t-shirts for sale, and the reason we have those for sale is we're trying to get the word out about Volution, and to the degree that people are wearing our logo and information about us in their home communities, we hope that'll spread the word, so I would encourage you to consider getting a t-shirt. And the following day, or today, following the plenary, we'll repeat the same schedule really as was yesterday. You get a coffee break right after this, and then 10 a.m. workshops, and then picking up your box lunches for the lunch opportunities. Last thing, we're going to finish the day out with the trade show reception. I hope you all will take the opportunity to go down to the trade show for the reception, and then also followed by the Pecha Kucha Slam, which is from 7 to 9 at the poolside. So that's going to be an interesting new activity. It should be pretty energetic up there. Hope you consider joining us for that. Today we have a plenary called The Shifting Paradigm, Funding Transit and TOD within a Changing Landscape. Therese McMillan, who is the Deputy Administrator of the FTA of the U.S. Department of Transportation, is going to be the moderator. Thank you so much, Therese, for being here today. Therese helps manage a staff of over 500 people and a budget of around $10 billion. Prior to her appointment at FTA, she was Deputy Executive Director of Policy at the San Francisco Bay Area's Metropolitan Transportation Commission, where she was responsible for strategic financial planning and federal, state, and regional fund sources for transit and other modes, legislative advocacy, public affairs, and community outreach. She is currently a member of the Transportation Research Board's Committee on Taxation and Finance. She earned a BS in Environmental Policy and Planning Analysis at UC Davis and a joint Master's MCP MS. MCP is Community Planning, is that? City and Regional Planning, the City Planning and Civil Engineering Science at UC Berkeley. So we welcome Therese. She has a great experience for this panel. Thank you. And all the other panelists, please come up as well.
Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I don't know how many of you know I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and so when I was arriving here this morning, seeing dawn breaking over the Hollywood Hills with a temperature now projected to be in, I think the 90s, is quite a welcome mat for those of us, particularly coming from the East Coast. So again, thank you for being here early. This conference is really rich in opportunities. I arrived last night, but on the plane I was looking at the agenda for the sessions, and I was struck really by the diversity of sessions that are here to offer. There's something for practitioners advocacy representatives, local elected officials, the very presence of these different viewpoints is going to make the dialogue for this conference particularly rich, and the diversity of opinions and perspectives of how to create livable space for all people where transportation options are woven into the fabric of the community, I think is well represented by the folks in this room, and I'm certainly looking forward to learning some stuff today as well. As your federal representative on the panel, I want to take a quick opportunity to give you a sense of what's happening in Washington, D.C., and what it's doing to help advance the Volution agenda and the projects and programs that all of you seek to implement. As you are well aware, Congress did pass this summer MAP 21, Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century. And this is the new authorization, 2-year authorization for surface transportation. There are a number of folks from FTA here, and they will be having or have had orientation sessions on a number of the proposals, so I'm not going to go into some detail, but I wanted to provide a bit of a foundation on a couple of initiatives to underscore the point of the federal role being just a part of a foundation for building the complex portfolios that are now needed to deliver the types of projects and programs that our panel represents here today. With MAP 21, and for those of you that have ever had the enriching experience of participating in our New Starts program, New and Small Starts program, there is some well-earned, long-anticipated streamlining provisions that are incorporated into the new law. We consolidate phases and streamline the review process for the New Starts program. We eliminate the standalone alternatives analysis of relying much more so on existing environmental review processes. And very interesting for a number of folks I know that have been pursuing this, there's a new category called core capacity that has been added to the mix. I know there's a number of sessions looking at the role not only of the sort of greenfield development TOD arena, but I think it was infill and refill, if I remember the category in the agenda. And this notion of building around the existing transit system and taking advantage of that infrastructure, but with our new core capacity program, also thinking about what enhancements to the existing system. That's not necessarily a pure extension of the system, how that can be built in to serve the expanding role of transit in our urban and suburban areas is an exciting new approach, and we'll be working on that going forward. One of the things that we're still almost any day now, we hope to see our final rule on New Starts and Small Starts released. That will provide a very solid foundation for implementing the new MAP 21 provisions. So stay tuned, watch our website, and we'll get you the news as quickly as the federal process allows us to do so. With respect to another exciting program, we have a new transit-oriented development, or TOD, planning pilot program that creates discretionary funding for TOD and comprehensive planning grants. Again, we've been involved with underwriting through various different funding sources, efforts such as this for some time, but this is a program dedicated to that. Now, we're in a bit of a holding pattern because the recent continuing resolution for appropriations covering the next 6 months did not put money toward this new program under MAP 21, so it's something we can immediately start rolling out. We will, however, begin developing the guidance related to this new program and probably getting a lot of good ideas from the conference here today. One other thing that's not related to MAP 21, but again I wanted to mention, hopefully we'll be also getting out very quickly, new guidance in the form of a FTA circular on joint development. The Federal Transit Administration has had a program of advancing joint development for many years. I think this administration and this team at FTA has also taken on the responsibility of looking at our past guidance and when it's been confusing and inconsistent, saying we really need to fix it. This was one of the ones where we've taken a step back, pulled together guidance that's been sort of in different places, has not necessarily had a consistent message, tried to put it all in one place, put it in some clearer language, and provide the type of guidance to those of you that want to do joint development projects around transit areas where there's a federal interest, and make that whole regulatory structure far more clear than it was in the past. So again, that's not TOD. It's an important tool for transit-oriented development, and hopefully we'll be helping you there. But all of that and the other elements that are in MAP 21 really are just a piece of the complex portfolio that you as, again, local elected officials or practitioners or stakeholders need to pull together in this environment, as our session says, is a shifting paradigm of funding and finance for TOD. It is no longer the case that the federal dollar is the driving catalyst for many of these projects. It's still incredibly important. I think the unrelenting demand to get into the New Stars pipeline is evidence of that. But more and more, delivering these projects means that funding sources from the state level, from the local level, and importantly from the private sector all need to be pulled together in sometimes an incredibly complex mix to make things happen. And we have an amazing panel, I want to say today, that's going to talk about the experiences they've had in this regard, and we'll have a conversation and dialogue about their past experiences, what they see going forward, and we'll take questions from you all as well to launch what should be a really great day. Our first speaker is Denny Zane, who's the executive director of Move Los Angeles, so our, one of the local heroes, I guess, of the transportation environment here in Los Angeles. Denny created Move LA in 2007 to bring together business, labor, and environmental leaders and organizations to raise significant funding for LA County's transit system. This coalition helped lead the campaign to get Measure R on the 2008 ballot, and I dare say is working on Measure J, which is going before the voters on November the 6th. You'll hear, I'm sure, things about that. Previously, Denny served at the Santa Monica City Council, so he brings a rich experience as a local elected official to the panel. And he wrote much of the land use policy for Santa Monica's downtown, emphasizing pedestrian amenities, mixed-use development, and effective transit access. So we very much welcome Denny's experience today. Our second speaker will be Nancy O. Andrews, who's the president and chief executive officer of the Low Income Investment Fund, or LIF. And this is a community development financial institution that has invested $1 billion in community projects. Nancy was a member of the Federal Reserve Board's Consumer Advocacy Council and is a recognized expert on the challenges facing America's neighborhood. She was also deputy director of the Ford Foundation's Office of Program-Related Investments, where she helped manage $130 million of a social investment portfolio and designed and launched the foundation's housing policy program. So again, what we have here is someone who's well-versed in pulling together the public sector and the private sector and the philanthropic community to deliver the types of projects we want to see. Our third speaker will be Phil Washington, who's the general manager of the Denver RTD. Phil is implementing Fast Tracks, which is one of the country's largest transit expansion programs. He also executed the first of its kind $2.3 billion public-private partnership, P3. It's a good thing we're doing this morning and not after happy hour, because you'd never be able to get that out, to finance a commuter rail link between Denver's airport and downtown areas. Phil has served on city, state, and national task forces and created the RTD and Community Workforce Initiative Now WIN program for people in communities affected by major infrastructure projects. And that has been held up as one of the models for workforce development in the country. So I want to get started with the panel. We'll have each of our speakers in order. Denny, Nancy, and Phil make a 10-minute presentation on projects in the TOD arena that they've been involved with. I'll then moderate some questions for them and encourage a conversation from you. So let's get started with Denny.
Good morning. So I have a pleasant surprise for you. I think we're going to see one of my favorite short films. Who do I cue up here?
LA's got lines.
LA's got lines.
New light rail line.
New light rail line.
New subway lines.
Subway line.
Those lines, those lines, those new lines. Subway, light rail, new bus lines. Let's connect those lines, those new lines. Let's hear the lay of the lines. The green line's connected to the blue line. The blue line's connected to the red line. The red line's connected to the gold line. Now hear the lay of the lines. The orange line's connected to the red line. The silver line's connected to the red line. The silver line's connected to the gold line. The purple line's connected to the gold line. Expo's connected to the blue line. Expo's connected to the red line. Now hear the lay of the lines. Soon Expo's gonna meet Crenshaw. The green line's gonna meet Crenshaw. The subway to the ocean's gonna get us all in motion. And the LAX extension of the green line's worth a mention. From the valley to the beach, once above it is in reach. And they put it all together with the regional connector. Ride the rainbow on Metro. Let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go, Metro down to Union Station. Let's go, let's go, let's all go, Metro, and hear the lay of the lines. LA's got lines, those new lines, subway, light rail, new bus lines. Come and see those lines, those new lines. Come see the lay of the lines.
Such a good setup. Always puts everybody in such a good mood. That's why we're all feeling so optimistic around here. First of all, I think if Gerard Wright is out here, I'd like to point him out and thank him for his help on designing the maps, Gabriel Morgan for writing the song, and John Curry for his digital animation for this little piece. It's become a bit of a theme song for us, not just because it portrays what we hope our future will look like, but because it conveys the optimism we feel. At least most of us feel, I think. I guess yesterday maybe there was some grumpiness expressed. Well, you know, that's just the way it is in a democracy. You even, you know, the grumpy as well as the optimistic get a chance to share their feelings. I'm one of the clearly optimistic. I think we are here in Los Angeles at a transformational moment, a truly transformational moment, when after 60 years of, you know, back when they tore up a robust transit system and made way for the uniquely Los Angeles automobile culture, we have an opportunity to largely restore that system. Now, this isn't a transformation that occurred on one election day, 2008. Actually, there were two ballot measures, one in 1980 and one in 1990, for half-cent sales tax, without which we wouldn't have a transit system here at all, frankly. And the operating money for the bus system would be gutted without those measures, and certainly the blue line, the green line, and the red line would not exist, and those were predecessor lines before Measure R in 2008 came about. But back then, Los Angeles voters voted about 51% in 1980 and about 51% in 1990 to approve those half-cent sales tax. Well, that was in the aftermath of Prop 13. All of you are sort of familiar. This is that famous anti-property tax measure which required all future taxes to receive two-thirds vote. So those measures, had they required two-thirds vote, would have failed. And we would not here now have the transit system that we now have, and we would have serious hell to pay, as I'm sure you can all imagine. So in 2007 or so, when the slush of our traffic started to turn into the crystalline gridlock that we've long anticipated but hoped was distant, it was really a politically crystalline moment as well. And in that time, we at Move LA convened a coalition of business leaders and labor leaders, environmental and community leaders, and to say, hey, you know, it's getting really bad out there. We got 3 million people going to live here in the next 25 years. Metro just said it had no new money for any expansion projects. Don't you think we need to do something here? And oh, by the way, the real money is in the hands of the voters, and the presidential election is around the corner. We better get our act together. And that was a message that rang very true, very, very true at that moment. And it did in large part because the political leadership in Los Angeles was the right leadership for the moment. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa had articulated a very aggressively articulated a compelling transit vision when he ran for office. We knew, you know, when you look at that checkbox of things that you have to make sure happen in order to succeed, we knew that support at the top, not only the mayor, but a person who has the authority to appoint for himself and 3 other members to the Metro Board, that those boxes could be checked. And that was crucial. So while Move LA, I think, played a critical role in helping to pull together the parade, there's no doubt in my mind that without the leadership of the good mayor, the parade would have been inconsequential at that moment. We needed that leadership, especially since we needed 2/3 vote. That coalition pulled it together quickly, very quickly, remarkably quickly, in part because we also had an apparatus of councils of governments around the regions, sub-regional councils of cities that had been talking about what was important for their sub-region for several decades already. And so it wasn't a fresh start at a look at what might be. It was an opportunity to bring what people were already thinking they needed into a program. But you know always when you need 2/3 vote. You know, a subway to the sea, as iconic and sexy as that can sound and as preoccupied with those kinds of things the local media gets, the voters want to see a countywide program. And that compelled the kind of coalition building that was necessary ultimately to pass this measure. And we found people, when we began to convene these discussions, actually of a like mind. There really isn't a great difference between the business community and the labor community when it comes to appreciating the need for an infrastructure that provides for an efficient economy. There certainly are differences in related issues, project labor agreements or the like, you know, what's fair taxation and so on and so forth. But everybody knows that we have to have an efficient transportation system if we're going to have an effective economy. And remember, September 2008 was the moment when we went off that cliff economically. And 2 months later, November 2008, was when LA County voters had the opportunity to vote. I sort of look at that moment and think, now, what were people feeling? And it reminds me of the song that Jeff Bridges sings in that recent movie where he was nominated for Academy Award. He sings, "Even falling feels like flying for a little while." And that's exactly what it was like in November '08. Are we going to hit ground, or are we okay here? Well, the voters thought we had to go forward in order to be okay. And we won 68% of the vote in that campaign. And everybody woke up the next day thinking like, oh my God, we've done it. 2/3. Now, how marvelous, how extraordinary, how transformational is that? But we woke up the next day also thinking like, with the panoply of transit projects, by the way, Measure R was about 70% transit in it, in the automobile capital of the known universe. That itself was a remarkable achievement. But we woke up the next morning and it was 30 years. Oh my God, we need these things now. What do we do to get this now? And that was where the idea of the 3010 plan began to be germinated. The idea that we might be able to borrow somewhere, somehow, enough money at low enough interest rates to be able to accelerate the development of these projects. And if you're going to borrow enough money at low enough interest rates, you know, the first place you look is the federal government. Not because they had a program, but because where else might they create one? And that's exactly what happened. Mayor Villaraigosa took the message of the 3010 plan to Washington, and in the federal bill was created a financing opportunity that we dreamed of for accelerating these projects. And that measure passed. It was half of what we needed. We needed another program as well, and that's where Measure J comes in. But I really want to commend to you a close scrutiny of the opportunity that the new expanded TIFIA program will give you. Not only is it a financing program, but uniquely it is a financing program for multiple projects. They have a program in there called the Master Credit Agreement, like a line of credit, where instead of just one project, you can have a system of projects looking for financing. And I think that that is not only a way of accelerating, it is a way of facilitating a political rationalization of the process in your communities. So that's where we get to Measure J. Now, Measure J is on the ballot this November. It also needs 2/3 vote. It actually polls better than Measure R did prior to the election. However, it isn't going to have the benefit of the same, what we used to call the Obama turnout. But we think it will do well, and it'll complete the package that we need to accelerate these projects. We already have 5 transit projects under construction in the community, and the community is really feeling ambitious and optimistic. The LA Times gave, frankly, a glowing endorsement on Sunday, and several other major important regional newspapers did so yesterday. We are expecting more. That is the first time. I've never read a glowing endorsement in the LA Times. It was so striking. But we're going to be talking more about some of the other challenges. We're going to presume a bit that we're going forward with this system, and we're going to have the challenges that are required, that are placed before us to address the community development needs as that system rolls out, especially, I think, most importantly, the affordable housing needs. That's, I think, going to be our most serious challenge going forward once we get this system built and rolling. Thank you.
Wow, it's going to be tough to follow that, particularly because I don't have a song. But now I think I really have some great ideas for how to make a song that has something to do with capital stacks, where money goes here and money goes there, and by the time you're done, you actually have a project. I'm very, very pleased to be with all of you this morning. This is a great conference. I've never been here before, but I just love the energy. I love the art. I love the fact that people are walking around carrying bicycles, and I love just the vibrancy that I'm seeing in the room. It's also a transformational moment as the MTA moves forward with the vision that has been fueled by Measure R. And I want to talk about the way in which community organizations can be a part of accelerating and moving that vision forward. A very quick word on the Low Income Investment Fund, which is my organization, so that you have an idea of where I'm coming from. We are a community capital solutions organization, and our mission is to build healthy communities. We do that with a very holistic vision and approach to our work, starting with housing, affordable housing. We invest in community schools, in transit-oriented development, in green projects, healthy food grocery store in this very low-income neighborhood of Tenderloin in San Francisco. And importantly, it's located just 2 blocks from the Powell Street BART station, which allows the people that live there easy access throughout the Bay Area region. So going back to the 2 core points that I want to get across that I'm trying to make, the first is thinking and working beyond the rail. That requires cross-sector collaboration. It can happen by developing a shared vision first, but to breathe life into the vision, it helps to have a scarce resource at the table. And in most cases, that scarce resource is money. To my second point, a little bit can go a long ways. A small, risk-absorbing investment can act like a magnet and pull the private sector, the community development finance sector together around it, so that $10 million becomes $50 million, $1 billion becomes $10 billion, and pretty soon you're talking about real scale, and that means you have a chance to really get something done. Now, in telling the story, I don't want to suggest that the way things get done in San Francisco is the way they get done in all states and all cities and all towns across the country. It's not a one-size-fits-all. But it does suggest a few principles, and those principles are collaboration with multiple players across sector and using a little bit to leverage your way into the big picture and the big vision. Every community across the country needs to figure out their own path. They need to understand what their capabilities are, what their needs are. But structured funds like the Bay Area TOD fund can provide a powerful example of what's possible, and it can get us all thinking beyond and working beyond the rail. So thank you.